Hello, everyone, and welcome to our session today. My name is Dr. Robin Yang, and with me are my research team, um, Emily Lee and Rafael Silva. Today, we're going to talk about a bit about robotization of the workplace. That is kind of happening now. If you're watching the Olympics, you would have seen robots in the Olympics, anywhere from automated autonomous buses to a robot playing basketball. So that's kind of interesting. Well, not playing basketball, more like shooting. But hey, it's a robot. We talk about artificial intelligence, different types of robots, and then we will work through what exactly is this project that we have in the lab that we have George Brown called the Humology Lab. And you will see our screens have names that say Humology Lab on it. And we'll talk to you about what that is, our current research, and what the results are of that current research. And then we'll talk about what's next. All right. So in the world of post-pandemic, we realize that when it comes to work, a lot of individuals, probably including yourselves, look at the idea of what meaningful work is to you. The pandemic has allowed us to kind of introspect and look at what exactly will make us happy and what is important to us, and therefore make choices of the types of work that we do based on what our definition is of meaningful work. And in so doing, um, we are now able to understand what what we're looking for, what we're gaining out of our sessions, why we choose what we choose, um, what why we choose certain classes, all of those things. There are some five key aspects of what meaningful work is. So if for some reason you are a bit confused and you want to make sure that you understand what meaningful work is for you, look at these five aspects. One is try to understand purpose. What is we all talk about what is the purpose? What is the purpose of me in this program? What is the purpose of me wanting to work in this country or in whatever country that you're in? What are the relationships that I will be engaging in the moment I make those choices? And also understanding what are the skills that I need so that I become stellar in my ability in my work that I chose. And ultimately, studies have shown that if you've done the first three, your self-esteem, self-identity, recognition of who you are, because of the autonomy of your of and self-independence of what you do, make you now think that and feel like the work that you do is meaningful to you. So those are the five key aspects of what meaningful work looks like. And I love this dog. Uh, then we talk about artificial intelligence. So Emily, share a little bit more about what artificial intelligence is.
Yes. So, what is AI? AI is basically the ability of a device or a computer or a robot to do tasks that are usually done by humans because they require human intelligence. Operating computers and robots require inputting instructions and commands that are usually tasked to humans. With the advent of AI, we can use this technology to do the same job that was originally done by people. Starting with simple tasks and moving on to more complex ones, AI can help us take over some responsibilities and gives people the time and mental energy to pursue more difficult tasks. And an example of how this is being used is how some companies are handling customer service. Big box companies are using AI to handle customer service calls and emails, which allows people or humans to tackle more complex complaints and more complex tasks. And this saves people some time and labor. Now, in terms of the types of artificial intelligence, or the types of AI. There are several. The first one is reactive machines. So they are among the types of artificial intelligence systems that do not have the power to learn things and implement what they learn in future actions. The name reactive machines hints at how these systems would function. Essentially, they require prompts and would react to prompts, but they will not be able to store information to use it for the future. And with limited memory AI systems combine the abilities to react to and learn from the previous data. They use historical information and past data to extract knowledge and react in the present. Now, the learning process leads to technical prowess to make intelligent decisions, and present-day AI systems, including those that utilize deep learning, are trained to react and learn. Most present-day AI fall here. With theory of mind, the theory of mind system would include understanding emotions, belief systems, and thinking patterns, along with cognitive capacity as a whole. The researchers and technologists strive to make the machines understand humans better and learn from various factors that influence their thinking. So this system is trying to make the AI see that to see humans in a similar way as humans would perceive another human. And our work falls under here. Now, in terms of self-awareness, it is largely theoretical at this point in time, but it would be a system that possesses an adequate amount of self-awareness and self-consciousness. This is very close to how we understand human intelligence to be. It's something that scientists and researchers are trying to achieve with constant experimentation and testing. It's incredibly difficult to develop because it would require creating a system sophisticated enough to look inwards at the self and understand its different manifestations. With artificial narrow intelligence, this is AI that uses limited intelligence and focuses on narrow tasks. It's under a very predefined limited set of constraints, and it involves learning from limited set of instructions. And most of AI is here right now. Now, for artificial general intelligence, the target here is to develop machines that can create connections across various domains independently. And this type of intelligence can hypothetically learn and understand tasks in a similar way that a human can. And this connects with the theory of mind. With artificial superintelligence, it's actually a hypothetical narrative that involves outstanding amount of memory, rapid processing capabilities, and accelerated pace of intelligent decision making, which would enable the machines to perform very complex tasks in a very short span of time. They will be able to make complicated decisions influenced by numerous factors like never before. And this level of intelligence would surpass human intelligence. So it's very hypothetical at this point. And next, to connect AI to robots, um, uh, we can say that robots can work without being connected to AI. They can work without AI, but combining the two is very much like having the best of both worlds, which is what we want. The sophistication of systems like AI can provide machines like robots to perform autonomously, reducing the need for human intervention at every turn. In terms of customization, customizing the apps and devices provides a workplace with technology that has been tailored to fit their environment. Robot and AI are like any other piece of technology. The people using them need time to adjust their expectations and be patient. Learning about them can help them learn about the people and their environment as well. And it's also important to remember that robots are always observing their surroundings. So privacy should be given a priority to ensure that everyone feels comfortable. And with the presence of new, quote, co-workers, every human employee will react differently, and acknowledging behavioral changes amongst employees and having open conversations about them would be a good strategy to start. And like any other piece of equipment, robots also need to be maintained and operated with certain protocols and safety guidelines. Establishing training programs to facilitate the robots being treated with care and help employees learn a new skill as well. And Raphael will tell you more about the definition of a robot.
Yep. Hi everyone again. So I'll be giving you a brief about what's a robot and the most well-known different types of robots that exist nowadays, and usually how we categorize them. So basically a robot is a programmable machine that physically interacts with the world around it and is capable of carrying out complex series of actions in an autonomous or semi-autonomous manner. Nowadays, it's also possible, or it's actually not wrong to say that a robot doesn't even need to have a physical body, given the development of virtual robots. But let's leave that aside for a moment. In most of the cases, the ultimate goal of developing a robot of any kind or format is to replace human effort, either by performing functions in a human-like manner, by mimicking other animals' movements and behavior, or even in a whole original way that can be specifically engineered for a specific you may all know about the Mars 2020 rovers, which is the robot that was launched to space and to explore Mars. So that robot, its wheels are individually motorized and made of titanium tubing that help it firmly grip in the harsh terrain of Mars. Robots also need electrical components to control and power the machinery. Essentially, an electric current provided by a battery, for example, is needed to power a large majority of robots. Robots contain also at least some level of computer programming. So without a set of code telling it what to do, a robot would just be another piece of simple machinery. And inserting a program into a robot gives it the ability to know when and how to carry out a task. And here we have the types of robots. There are several ways of categorizing the most well-known types of robots. One of them is according to their type of operation. And here we have 6 main types of robots existing nowadays. The first one on the top left corner, we have an example of a pre-programmed robot, which basically just do what they are programmed for. And this image is actually from a robot that we have in the Humology Lab. It's called Cosmo. It's designed basically for play and educational purposes. The second robot, if you follow to the right hand side, we are exemplifying a humanoid robot, which usually those robots mimic human appearance, behavior, emotions, among other abilities. And illustrating this category, we have Sophia, one of the most advanced human-like robots existing nowadays. It's produced by a Hong Kong-based company called Hansel Robotics. The third type of robot that we are exemplifying here are the autonomous robots, which are the ones capable of performing tasks without a human intervention. And here we are showing a Tesla Model 3, but any self-driving vehicle could fall into this category. There are also the teleoperated robots that can be remotely controlled, usually by humans. And this robot that we are exemplifying here is called Spot, and it's developed by a company called Boston Dynamics. The next one is augmenting robots, which can enhance human capabilities. Here we have a robot named Hall from a Japanese company called Cyberdyne. And for the last, we have here a virtual robot, as I mentioned at the beginning. So virtual robots only exist and operate in virtual environments. The image shows the usage of a virtual robot to simulate the actions of a physical robot. And this can have like multiple purposes, like why and how to use a virtual robot, um, maybe to test or develop actual physical robots. It's also important to notice that those types are not exclusive and that several robots can fall under more than one category at the same time. For example, the spot robot, the yellow dog-like robot that is, yes, this one that is being pointed, it can be teleoperated robot, but it can also be a pre-programmed one. At the same time that it can be considered an autonomous robot depending on the task that it's required to perform. Following other ways of categorizing robots, we have here other types of categorizations, for example, by industry, where they are mostly used. And we are mentioning here manufacturing, logistics, home, travel, healthcare, for example. By usage type, in aerospace, consumer, disaster response, drones, education, and so on. Also, by type of locomotion, this is a very interesting way of categorizing robots as well. Because it influences directly on the format of the body of the robot and its capabilities. Anyways, there are already countless of robot types existing nowadays, and there is a natural tendency that certain industry fields will keep driving the developments in this area. Traditionally, those fields are demanding for repetitive, labor-intensive, high precision, or even dangerous tasks. And with the advancements in the robotics and AI fields, however, robots have been more frequently developed to perform more complex tasks with little to no human intervention at all. This can attract technology enthusiasts' attention, but also it can be a source of concern about their potential negative impacts for individuals and for the society in general. And now that you have a bit of a background in AI and robotics, let's talk about what we do at the Humology Lab.
So the Humology Lab stemmed from the idea that we we want to understand how humans behave in environments where there are robots around them. And my video is not showing. Oh, that's not it. Okay, well, there's a video here, and I will show you that later. It's an example of what we have been doing at the school, a bit of video of our students, but unfortunately, this is not showing. So, one of the thoughts that we have is when a robot falls down like this, what do people do around it? Do we ignore it? Do we help it? Do we laugh at it? Do we just go, oh yeah, okay, it's just another robot and so forth? Each type of that behavior is something that we are studying at our lab to understand its impact to society at large. So what you have seen were three and heard were three distinct types of discussions. One about meaningful work, two for artificial intelligence, and then three about robots. If you combine all of that, that's what society of the futures would look like. So, what would that mean? And how do we then prepare not just yourselves, but also leaders in the environment that's forthcoming? So, we created a variety of research methodologies. This is a 3-year project for us, and we were given funding by the government because we're the only one in the country trying to understand how robots impact our society when the individuals that we're working with in our research are individuals with advanced degrees or have professional experiences already in the countries of their origin. And when you combine that in this country with the backgrounds of individuals and then combine it again with robots and AI, how would all of that work together? So we have two sets of sampling. We have consecutive sample. Consecutive sample essentially means that we follow the research participants throughout the period of time. These individuals have been with us for a couple of months now. It's about 150 of them. And then we have voluntary response sample, and those samples come from surveys. So whenever you fill in a survey, you're actually voluntarily participating in a sample and in a research. Combine those together along with existing data, and you triangulate because you have three sets of data. You can then have an understanding of what the sentiment is of individuals in environments when we start incorporating robots in those environments. So we have a couple of partners in this project. We have TD Bank, we have TELUS, we have National Bank, we have a company called Orange Gate, Global DWS, which is a robotics company. We have TELUS, we have CultureLink, which is an immigration community service company, and a couple more companies. And in those companies, whenever they're available, because of COVID, we were not able to go to all of them. We go to an environment that traditionally would not have robots. We put in robots in there and then start to observe and understand the behavior of the individuals around us. Are those individuals excited about the robot? Do they take a little selfie with the robot? What is it that they do? And in and we track every single type of movement, every single type of reaction that they do. Because remember, our study is about human behavior, not necessarily robots. Robots are the catalyst for the study. And this is what we found out. For the consecutive sample now, remember, these are the ones that we've had for a long period of time. They are quite positive about the idea of having a robot coworker. And remember, these are the individuals with advanced degrees, so anybody that has essentially a college degree and above, and anybody who has worked in their country of origin and they come here. So the cutoff is about 3 years. So anybody with 3 years and above, country of origin, you come to Canada and then you study what's going on here. And in so doing, we then ask these questions of, are you excited about having robots as your coworker? 31% said, I'm a little concerned about that. 27% like, I don't have any preference because when you dig deeper, they come from environments with robots already. So, for example, in Japan, so we've seen this at the Olympics, the robots are pervasive, they're everywhere. So, when you're comfortable with that environment, then you come to this country, would your reaction be different? Most likely not. And then they become neutral in this study. Okay. We combine that. If we then go to the ones who are voluntarily responding to our surveys, and there's thousands of them now, and we put all of their information. It's qualitative, not just quantitative. We put it in a product called NVivo, wherein we test the thematic um, uh, categorization of their words and their choice of excitement, whether they are excited about it or not. We find a different result. We actually find that 48% are not that comfortable working with the robots, and then 34% are quite excited. Again, there's always a neutral component to that. When we combine those and we try to understand what exactly is happening here, we first had an aha moment. We realized that when data is churned into this whole NVivo product, we realized that there are these excitement to have a robot coworker when the robot coworker will work on activities and tasks that are routine, that will then free that individual from doing the routine task and actually do things that is meaningful to them. Because ultimately, anything that's a meaningful work would most likely still have some routine tasks that you may not really want to do, but it's kind of part of what having work is. So, an example would be if you're a leader of an organization and you're a manager, you're a supervisor, ultimately there's paperwork that you have to do. Imagine if that paperwork can actually be offloaded to an AI, then you can actually continue to have time to focus on developing your employees and having coaching conversations and bringing them to training and all of these other things because you've been freed up from work. The other piece is two other things you can see here. The other larger word would be efficiency and helpfulness. So it has been found that when the understanding of the robot being incorporated or AI incorporated into their workplace is to assist that individual to be much more efficient in their work and help them in their work because they're handling routine tasks, then they're okay. If it's anything else, then they can potentially be threatened. And the challenge that we have found for those who feel like they are threatened, because as you've seen here, there's a 48% negative rating for the individuals who were coming from the public. And this is anybody and everybody in the planet. So we've sent this survey to our professional associations, but our networks and also our friends and our colleagues and families and everybody. And there is now a whole microcosm of what the planet would look like in this response. And we found that there's a bit of a hesitation. And the hesitation apparently comes from lack of education in the understanding of how AI and robots will work with those individuals. So there is a task for you as well as the leaders and co-workers in environments that have AI. The task is you want to make sure that there is an explanation of why we have these robots and also give them an opportunity to be exposed to it. So what um, Emily has said about AI is we are not in the world of super intelligence, wherein they're self learning to the point that they have superhuman capabilities. We're not there. We are in an environment, that's what Raphael said, wherein the robots are part and parcel of the training that it got, as well as the programming that it got. And without that training or programming, it's nothing. It's just a piece of equipment. So when people are exposed to that very simple explanation and then build upon that, then they would hopefully realize that having a robot coworker might actually assist in the routine task, make their life a little bit more efficient, and there be a little bit more helpful. I love this quote from our partners at MIT. So they're actually, I know this Dr. Darling. I love her name. So she said, you can all read this. The machines are a very different type of skill set, and intelligence than what humans have. The real potential is not to recreate what we already have, but to actually partner what in what we're trying to achieve, much like what we've used animals for millennia. What essentially she's saying is that when it comes to humanoid type robots, yes, that's well and good. It allows people to be connected with those robots, but we need to have functionality of those robots to do an augment of what we are doing. So maybe have a humanoid robot, but have multiple arms that can then do multiple functions rather than just two arms, right? 10 experts in the world on the world of AI and robotics and said, what are your thoughts on what the world would look like in the 2030s? And interestingly enough, this is what they said. They said, um, you'll be able to choose how things will look and feel and smell like. National identities could seriously be blurred because Sophia is officially a citizen of UAE, right? So they've actually, oops, that just zipped along. They, and I just lost mine. There you go. They just added that one. And then your job can potentially not exist according to another expert. Automation is the name of the game. AI is embedded in everything. It could be embedded in our brains. There's no more Turing tests. So for those who understand what that is, that's thrown out the door because of AI. And then you don't need to know anything when said. And the AI doctor just knew what I needed, and maybe it will kill us. So these are kind of funny responses, but some have a bit of truth on it. There is one AI enabled robot that's in Toronto. It's from a company called Tiny Mile. And I saw it and I had to get out of the car and take this photo just to put it in this presentation. And it's going, we've seen it in Chinatown, we've seen it in Cabbage Town. It's a delivery system, much like Nero, NIRO, that delivers Pizza Hut pizzas in the States. This one delivers pretty much anything that the companies that it's part of um, would order online. So yeah, it goes to your to this particular one went to this Chinese store and delivered something. I didn't look at what they were doing. I was already creating traffic, taking a photo, but I thought that was a cool idea to kind of show here that it's already here and we see it already in our workplaces. Okay, so that's what robots are here. Thank you, everyone.